Welcome to the Prince Eats. Check out this video for house fried rice. Ingredients are in the description. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This is a family favorite of mine and probably of yours. And if you're looking to save a few bucks and have a semblance of takeout during the week, this recipe is for you. I'll start first discussing food prep, and there's a multitude of ingredients that I'll be using in this recipe. The first of which are bean sprouts, which are very common in many variations of fried rice. I like bean sprouts and they produce great contrasting texture for this recipe. Next are 2 of 3 proteins which I'll use in this recipe, flank steak and shrimp. And you can't have fried rice without ginger. Scallions are a must for both cooking and garnish. Garlic brings aroma and depth of flavor. You can't have fried rice without garlic. And some say that onions are optional, but they're a must in my fried rice. I also have here pre-cooked and pre-seasoned chicken breast. It'll work well in this recipe. And the last of the primary ingredients is butter, which I'll use at the end of this recipe. The first thing you'll need to do is slice your green onions. As you slice your green onions, you can place them into a clean bowl. I use both sides of the green onion, the dark green and the light green. The light green will be more for the cooking process, and the dark green will be for the cooking and the garnish. For this recipe, you can use sweet or white onion. And quite honestly, if you like onions, you can load up on them in this recipe. And to that point, if you like onion, it really doesn't matter how you dice your onions. If you like them large or if you like smaller pieces, really the choice is yours. For the sake of others, I use medium-sized diced onions. And as you dice your onions, you can place them into a clean bowl. Put your onions to the side for later. Next up is garlic, and if you're like me, you don't like the smell of garlic on your hands. So I have this garlic roller here which will help me to peel the skin off the garlic. You can find this tool in my Amazon storefront. I'll post the link in the description. As you can see, it peels the skin off the garlic completely. Next up is ginger. I'm using approximately a thumb's worth of ginger, and you want to be careful with how much ginger you use in your recipe. As a guiding principle, I'll say use approximately a thumb's worth of ginger for every 1.5 to 2 cups of rice. As you can see here, I'm trimming the outside of the ginger on the contour so that what remains is the flesh of the ginger. Next, you'll need to mince the garlic and the ginger. For the sake of time, I'm using a garlic press for both the garlic and the ginger. It really is effective and efficient, and it saves time from having to mince the long way. Place the ginger and garlic in a clean bowl and off to the side. The next order of procession is the protein. Here I have flank steak that's been cleaned, and I also allowed it to dry inside of some paper towels. Prior to preparing any protein, you want to ensure that it's as dry as possible. If not, what will happen during the cooking process is the excess moisture will cause a steaming effect. And this works against you if you're looking for color or sear on your proteins. For this recipe, you'll need to thinly slice your steak similar to this. Reason being is there's no marinade or tenderizing of this meat, so we'll need it to be as thin as possible, and that will make it as tender as possible. You'll also need to cut the steak in half for bite-sized pieces. The steak only needs to be big enough for a fork or spoon. And once you're done, transfer your steak to a bowl. Next up is the shrimp. And this step might not apply to you if you purchase shrimp that's already been cleaned and deveined. However, I typically like to save a few bucks and clean shrimp myself. As you can see here, I'm removing the shells from the shrimp in preparation to remove the nerve cord from the belly of the shrimp. As you can see here, I just run my knife through the belly of the shrimp and I pull out that bluish cord from the bottom of the shrimp. There's no harm in consuming that cord, however, the larger the shrimp, the more the anatomy is present or at least easily seen, and I'm just one to like to clean a lot of my protein. Once the shrimp is clean, cut them into small bite-sized pieces. Put them in a clean bowl and place them to the side for later. Now it's time for the cooking process. Grab a medium skillet and place it over medium-high heat. Drizzle cooking oil into the pan, and once it begins to simmer, go ahead and carefully dump in the beef. Cook the beef for approximately 2 to 3 minutes or until much of it is browned. Only give it 2 to 3 minutes because there'll be more than enough time to finish cooking it later on in this process. Next, you'll add in the shrimp. And because we've chopped it down to bite-sized pieces, the shrimp isn't going to take long to cook, virtually 1 to 2 minutes at most. And just as you begin to see the shrimp turn pink, go ahead and add in the minced garlic and minced ginger. Stir the contents of the pan long enough until the ginger and garlic become fragrant. Next, you'll need to add the eggs to the pan. And depending on how much egg you like, I typically like a lot of egg in my fried rice, so I use 2 eggs for this recipe. Certainly you can use 1, or if you like more, you can use more than 2. You want to stir the eggs occasionally so that they scramble. And when the eggs are semi-hard, go ahead and remove the contents of the pan and place them onto a clean plate. If your pan is dry, add a little bit of oil. Toss in the onions and cook them for approximately 2 to 3 minutes or until they turn tender. After 1 to 2 minutes, you can go ahead and add in the butter. Allow the butter to melt in the pan. The onions will continue to cook. Next, you can dump in the day-old cold white rice. The temperature and the texture of the cold white rice really helps it to stand up to the stir fry. If there are any large pieces of white rice stuck together, use this time to break it up with your spatula. Flatten the rice with your spatula so that the bottom of the pan maintains even contact with as much of the white rice as possible. Once done flattening the rice, allow the rice to cook in the pan without touching it. Do not stir for approximately 1 minute. Next, we can begin to add the seasonings. Here I'm using premium dark soy sauce. Mostly that is for color. I'm also using regular soy sauce more for the flavor. Start light with the soy sauce and you can add more later. Finally, I'm adding some oyster sauce, which adds great flavor to this dish. Start with 1 tablespoon and then go from there as needed. Stir until evenly incorporated. As you can see, the dark soy sauce really gives this rice its color. To find out the flavor of the rice, you'll need to perform a taste test. Add more soy sauce or salt as appropriate. I also like to add chili garlic sauce, which is an exceptional addition to this dish. Continue to stir the rice until evenly incorporated. And by the way, the rice should be on medium heat at this point. Next, you can dump in the bean sprouts and a handful of the scallions. Save some of the scallions for garnish. Now we're at the home stretch. You can go ahead and add in the shrimp, chicken, and beef. And lastly, an optional ingredient is this vegan MSG that I have. It is a flavor enhancer and simply put, it's optional. And just like that, you're done. House fried rice made simple and easy on a weeknight. All that's left to do is to perform one final taste test, plate, and garnish with scallions. Dinner is served. For more simple and easy recipes just like this one, visit theprinceeats.com and The Prince Eats on all social media platforms.